Empyre Issue 1 sees the Fantastic Four taken into the Kree Skrull Empire's fleet. A fleet Johnny notes is getting ready to invade Earth. Ben wants to look into this, but they have Joven and Nakala aboard, the Kree and Skrull child soldiers with them, and he wants to keep them safe. Sue knows they need to take the kids home, so Reed tells Franklin to take them home in the escape shuttle. But Franklin isn't happy about that, since his powers are fading and he's been saving them up for something like this, and the next time he uses his powers could be his last. He knows the fleet is going to invade Earth and he needs to help defeat them. Reed says that this is how he helps, as the warrior children have suffered greatly and he needs to know his son will protect them no matter what. Val offers to take the children since she's the better pilot, despite the DMV knowing otherwise. Reluctantly, Franklin takes the escape shuttle along with Val and the kids, as Ben hopes that they will be okay, and Reed reassures him that they will, since they are taking a wide route around the fleet. Getting back to work, the Fantastic Four aim to look at what the Kree Skrull Alliance is doing heading to Earth, having Sue make the ship invisible as they enter the fleet, finding the flagship and the command deck, looking into the viewports to discover that Hulkling is leading the fleet from his throne. The Super Skrull Kl'rt asks for a word with his master, saying as a Super Skrull who has invisibility, he can sense when someone else is using it, pointing out that they have some esteemed company nearby. He uncloaks the Fantastic Four, whom Hulkling contacts, assuming they have questions. Down on Earth, Tony is woken from his mind by Steve, telling him that he was getting his thoughts in order within his suit. Thor thinks that he's just making another backup of himself, but Tony says it's more like a black box, and if anything goes bad, he wants people to know what happened. Elsewhere in the sprawling garden, She-Hulk is told to follow the swordsman, who says that he has something to give her, while Sequoia tells the other Avengers that there is no need for them to call him by any of his formal titles, since they can simply call him Qui, and he will always be that person. He says his greatest allies have united to avenge their sorrow, and when the day is done, they will have a place reserved for them in the garden forever. Steve thanks their friend, telling him that they will do anything they can. She-Hulk agrees, revealing that she has been remade into a more coherent, less animalistic Hulk, saying thanks to the resonance of the amber in the new hammer she wields, along with a Cotati meditation technique she learnt from swordsman, she can now focus properly, calming her rage and allowing Jennifer to come back through and feel more alive than ever. Suddenly, Iron Man tells him the Kree Skrull war fleet is incoming as the fleet descends on the garden, covering the sky. Captain Marvel contacts the fleet, telling them that Earth is an Avengers world, as is the moon and the garden, so they will only get one warning to leave. Tony backs her up, but is contacted by Reed, who wants to know why they are there. Tony sees Hulkling is in charge and wants some answers from the boy. Reed theorizes that Hulkling united the Kree and Skrulls, taking his rightful throne, but he knows the Alliance came first, with the Super Skrulls and the Pursuer coming to terms and joining forces. The rulers, however, made the first move, but they could only go so far to bring peace, so to hammer it home, they needed a figurehead in Hulkling. The prince confirms that Reed's theory is correct, but he never wanted to be Emperor, but it is a job that allows him to save lives, as a Kree civil war was in full swing, rampaging through the population, but taking on the role of a leader called a ceasefire into action, meaning he ended 2 wars in one day. Thor asks about the Cotati's life, since the fleet is obviously there to murder them, and Hulkling says that they will have a chance to surrender, but the garden is a threat to the entire galaxy. Captain America asks who told him that, and the prince says that the Super Skrull and Tanith told him about the Cotati, and he trusts them completely. Tony hopes that he's not that naive, knowing he can't see what's happening. Tony knows that they have only accepted him as a PR stunt, and it's all an easy target for them to cement their alliance, pinning all of the blood on Hulkling's hands. Sue asks what Reed thinks, but the man is unsure, knowing it does make some sense, but they cannot assume what is right. However, Tony knows with absolute certainty that he is right. Iron Man says that the Avengers will save Hulkling, telling him to stay out of the way as he tells Ghost Rider to go. Robbie grabs the Quinjet controls, using his power to turn it into a flaming warbird, speeding towards the fleet. Reed tells Hulkling that he can stop this and they need to solve this all together, but the Super Skrull tells Teddy not to listen to the heroes and let them sway his choices, since he has always had the prince's best interests at heart. Sue tells Kl'rt to stand down, as Ben tells Teddy that if they can stop this, he'll let the boys say it's clobbering time. Hulkling wants to go ahead with his plan, knowing that he can do better. He tells the fleet that they will make a stand there and they will win without any enemy casualties. Before Kl'rt and Glari can leave, Sue traps them in a force field bubble, but the generals fade away into dust, revealing that they were were just illusions of another Super Skrull, revealing the generals have already gone. Hulkling knows it's clobbering time as the Fantastic Four are ready for a fight in the throne room. Outside, the Ghost Quinjet fights its way through the ships, whose pilots are all taken down by non-lethal attacks by Ghost Rider's penance stare. Captain Glory arrives, knowing that the stare won't affect him since he doesn't commit any sins, allowing him to rip apart the Quinjet. Black Panther notes that Glory didn't try and actually kill them, which he finds interesting, telling Ghost Rider to stay at the controls and guide the jet down as the others go outside. T'Challa activates his Panther mech and along with Captain Marvel, Swordsman and She-Hulk take the fight to the Super Skrull. T'Challa wants to talk this out with Kl'rt since they have both been rulers, but the Super Skrull says a human can't rule anything except a squabbling backwater, shifting into a flaming, stretching, rocky series of fists as he attacks. Swordsman telepathically contacts She-Hulk, saying that he can get the drop on the Super Skrull while he's busy with T'Challa, so She-Hulk performs a fastball special, catapulting Swordsman at the Skrull, slashing him apart and cutting up his arms as Thor asks why he is needed on the garden and not up in the battle. Cap says that they need to end this fast with minimal loss, and Tony's plan is the best shot they have at that. Tony learns that Mjolnir is going to be needed though, as Iron Man attaches a piece of his tech to the hilt, getting Thor to go nuts with it. Thor spins the hammer, powering it up and telling the fleet that he wishes to see who wears the crown better. The hammer flies towards the capital ship, racing past all of the battles and breaching the throne room. The hammer intends on hitting Hulking, but the prince blocks the hammer with his sword, shocking Reed. This was all part of Tony's plan, however, as he activates the tech he put on the hammer, sending out a virus into the fleet's computer systems and disabling the entire fleet. Reed knows that this was a classic flashy Tony plan, and he wishes he was sure it was the right choice. Sequoia thanks the team for what they did, saying that they have done a noble service by delaying the fleet, since now the flowering can commence. The giant flower at the center of the garden begins opening to the people's chants, its insides covering Sequoia, who says illusions fall away and the death blossom can now bloom. As Sequoia is armored, the being tells his gathered Cotati that he doesn't bring peace, but the sword of his vengeance and punishment for the Kree Skrulls past. He calls them all Avengers, and they will be avenged, as the flower boosts Sequoia's powers, allowing him to send his plants to destroy the fleet. The Avengers watch on helplessly in horror, not realizing what they have done, as Reed and Ben are both killed by the plants. Sequoia declares the animal worlds will fall and the Cotati will rise as masters of the cosmos, and from there they will plant their seed of the Empyrean on Earth to begin their new empire. Empyre issue 1 was a fantastic first shot fired in Marvel's new mega event series, delivering on some really great moments for our heroes and villains, as well as some rather shocking scenes and turns of events. I have to say I'm very surprised they revealed Sequoia and the Cotati are evil. Like, of course it was pretty obvious they were out for revenge and that was how it was going to turn out, but I was so sure they were going to sell this event as two sides of a war that have been played up as both being right, and I thought they were going to go on with that for a little bit longer, with heroes on both sides having to battle each other over differing ideologies. I mean, it still could technically be all that, but it kind of ruins it a little bit now that we've seen that reveal in this first issue. All of that being said, I did like we actually are getting into all of the schlocky action stuff right off the bat, and Valerio Chitti's art does a really great job of selling the scale of all of this. All the big ships and large double splash pages are really damn cool. Reed and Ben seemingly being killed off was rather shocking and not something I saw coming, so I'm looking forward to getting into their Fantastic Four tie-ins to this, so hopefully that'll dive into that a little bit more. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10.